Is this legal, or will this get you arrested and sued?
That's not where the carts go. Get a Cart Narcs magnet that says I don't return my shopping cart like a jerk. I'm gonna put that right there for you.
Let's ask the Cart Narcs about their legal troubles. How many times have you been arrested for cart narking?
Let me see if I can count.
And give some legal analysis to some of these parking lot encounters. The Cart Narcs' mission is to combat the widespread issue of shopping cart abandonment due to the inconvenience it causes both customers and store employees, and to prevent property damage from loose carts. Agent Cordell, with a firm but friendly approach, patrols various shopping centers, parking lots, and retail establishments in Texas on the lookout for individuals who neglect to return their shopping carts properly. When he spots an offender, Agent Cordell springs into action, armed only with a camera, magnets of shame, and a sense of humor in an attempt to encourage the lazybones to do better. Unfortunately, not everyone appreciates enforcement of this social contract. When some people are confronted for being a lazybones, they deflect by alleging that the Cart Narcs agent is committing a crime. The most common crimes that the Cart Narcs are accused of committing are assault.
Did you just hit my car?
No, it's a magnet. It's
Yeah, but that's assault.
I don't think you know what that word means, number one,
I
ma'am.
actually do. I'm a lawyer.
And harassment.
Fuck away from me.
What are you doing in your car?
Yeah, I'm gonna hurt you in 2 seconds.
That's against the law, ma'am.
What you're doing is harassing me.
Under Texas law, assault is defined as intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly causing bodily injury to another person, threatening another person with imminent bodily injury, or intentionally or knowingly causing physical contact with another person when the person knows or should reasonably believe that the other person will regard the contact as offensive or provocative. So, as we can see in that first clip, the Cart Narc agent tosses the magnet onto the car's hood. He hasn't caused bodily injury or caused offensive contact with the driver. Also, because the tossing of the magnet didn't threaten anyone with imminent bodily injury, then it doesn't qualify as assault. Let's look at another one.
I'm not.
And if you touch the vehicle again, then you're harassing me. And in fact,
I don't know.
if I'm in the vehicle when you do it, it's tantamount to assault.
Tantamount?
No. Simply touching someone's vehicle is not assault. And no, touching a vehicle with someone inside is not an assault either. For this to rise to the level of an assault, the Cart Narcs would have to throw something at the driver sitting in the vehicle in such a manner that threatens the driver with imminent bodily injury. Obviously, that hasn't happened here. So maybe if he gets a Cart Narc brick that he throws at the windshield, then we would be looking at an assault. Let's look at another one.
With harassment, I'm going to ask you, you are assaulting me. This is a third-degree assault.
Do you know what I think? I feel like you maybe read the law once.
No, I'm studying it big time. Please quit harassing me.
What does big time mean?
Quit harassing me.
Why are you yelling?
Quit
That brings us to
harassing me.
harassment.
Why are you...
Please leave me alone.
Sir,
Please leave me alone.
you're following into this.
Please quit harassing.
Harassment is a two-element offense. It requires, number one, a very specific intent, and number two, performance of a specific action. For Cart Narcs to have committed harassment, there must first be intent to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, or embarrass another. Absent an outright confession, you have to determine intent through circumstantial evidence. As explained by the Cart Narcs in nearly every video, their goal is to encourage people to return their carts. For us to know if the Cart Narcs' intent is to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, or embarrass someone, then you have to look at all of the interactions since they all start out the same.
That's not where the cart goes. That's not where the carts go. That's not where the cart goes, sir. Come on now.
For the lazybones who show remorse and go to take their carts back, the Cart Narcs show gratitude and even offer to return the cart for them.
Carts go, the cart return right over there.
Yeah, I didn't use two of them. I only used one.
Yeah, okay, you want to take one, I'll take the other?
I think that is the truest measure of intent behind the interactions, because if the intent was to annoy, embarrass, or harass, then the Cart Narcs would pester, antagonize, and continue to point out their error instead of thanking them for their correction. Without this intent, then even if there is performance of this specific action, it doesn't constitute an offense for harassment. I'm going to skim through some of those specific actions because these don't apply in typical Cart Narc interactions. Threatening to inflict bodily injury on the person or to commit a felony against the person, their family, or their property. Making a false report to someone that another person has suffered death or serious bodily injury. Repeatedly calling someone's phone, failure to hang up a phone, or allowing someone else to use a phone to make harassing calls. Or sending repeated electronic communications to harass someone. Since none of those are in a typical Cart Narc interaction, let's look at those that could possibly apply. initiating a communication and in the course of the communication, making a comment, request, suggestion, or proposal that is obscene, publishing on an internet website, including a social media platform, repeated electronic communications in a manner reasonably likely to cause emotional distress, abuse, or torment to another person, unless the communications are made in connection with a matter of public concern, tracking or monitoring the personal property of a motor vehicle of another person without the other person's effective consent, by using a tracking application on the person's personal electronic device or using a tracking device, or physically following the other person or causing another person to physically follow them. I've watched countless Cart Narc videos and have never seen one where the Cart Narc agent was less than polite, even when the Lazy Bones was being antagonistic.
Now you leave.
No, all we did was we had a very polite conversation with you.
No, not a polite.
I was very calm, low.
Not a polite conversation.
How was I impolite? I didn't use any cuss words.
You.
However, even impolite or rude communications do not rise to the level of harassment because obscene has a very specific definition. To be obscene, the communication must be a patently offensive description of, or a solicitation to commit, an ultimate sex act or a description of an excretory function. I've never heard Agent Cordell besmirch the Cart Narcs' good name by uttering such filth. Since I don't think that the Cart Narcs had the necessary intent, and because there's no evidence of obscene communications, then the Cart Narcs couldn't be prosecuted for harassment under this portion of the law. Now this is one where we start getting close. Let's just presume for a moment that the Cart Narcs did have the intent to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, or embarrass another when recording these videos and posting them on YouTube, a social media platform. Let's also presume that these videos are being posted in a manner reasonably likely to cause emotional distress, abuse, or torment to another person. Seems like their goose is cooked, right? Wrong. Under the express terms of the law, these would have to be repeated electronic communications to rise to the level of harassment of someone. I've never seen a repeat offender make their way onto a Cart Narcs video. Also, there is an argument that the failure to return carts and the prevention of damage to vehicles from loose carts is a matter of public concern, which would then provide a complete defense to repeated social media postings, even with the intent to harass and in a manner reasonably likely to cause emotional distress. Commentary on matters of public concern are afforded protections under the First Amendment. Therefore, I think that the Cart Narcs are safe from prosecution under this portion of the law as well. So, this is where things start getting tricky. Under a brand new law in Texas, which won't go into effect until September 1st, 2023, one of those specific acts will now include following or tracking someone's vehicle without their effective consent. We've seen numerous videos where the Lazy Bones will drive a bit away from the Cart Narcs agent, get out to remove the magnet, and then discard it on the ground. The Cart Narcs agent will then approach the vehicle in order to pick up the litter and will continue the conversation, but never follows the person beyond the parking lot. So, what constitutes following under the harassment statute? If they drive 20 feet and stop, is it physically following to then re-engage just 3 parking spots away? Since this new law isn't in effect yet, we don't yet know how the court will interpret this statute. However, I still think that the Cart Narcs would be safe because they still have to have the necessary intent to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, or embarrass in addition to the physical following. We actually reached out to the Cart Narcs to learn more about their ongoing mission and to ask the questions that you wanted to know. Agent Sebastian, under Texas law, in order to be convicted of harassment, you must first have the intent to harass, annoy, alarm, abuse, torment, or embarrass someone. When you're out Cart Narcing, is that your intent to do any of those things?
No, of course not. That's ridiculous. My intent is, as you see in the videos, is to politely have folks return their carts. And I give them, as you can see, every opportunity to do that. And I think it's emphasized, especially because I will do videos where people do just that, where they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad," and they take their cart back. It's the intent is not to make people go nuts, because I'm not doing something that is inherently aggressive or menacing. At the very least, I am putting a magnet on their car, maybe 2 or 3 times. But again, this is not damaging them. I'm obviously polite, never making any physical or verbal threats of any nature. So of course that sort of attack falls flat.
But there is a certain amount of public shame that goes along with calling people out for being lazy though, right?
Well, there's a bit of that to be sure, but that's the most mild form of shame. We use the word shame, but it's like the most tepid watered down version of that. It is, yeah, it's not shame as in, you did something awful. This is not the Scarlet Letter. This is like the teeniest, tiniest little version of that.
When did having shame become such a bad thing?
Exactly right. Like people, at some point, I don't know. I'm sure you could follow the literature or whatever. At some point, I don't know, maybe 30-something years ago ish. You'd be like, oh, that's a shame. You shouldn't, like, that's the best phrase to use. Like, that's a shame. That really shouldn't be happening. And people used to be like, oh, you're right. That is a shame. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be picking up my litter or after my dog or returning my card or fill in the blank with any of those things that you should be doing for yourself and shouldn't have others do for you. And it's, people have taken it to be like, it's some evil condemnation. No, it's a healthy thing if done in moderation and done appropriately.
You've taken up a very important mission to teach people in parking lots and on YouTube about taking responsibility. What motivated you to take up this mantle?
People have had this observation of why are other people so lazy? And that was my observation, was simply that. But the difference, I guess, in what I do is, a lot of what I do in the world is I say, okay, here's an observation, let's investigate. Very simple. And that's the early days of Cart Narcs were just that, was me saying, walking up to people, not with a uniform or anything like that, just saying, oh, hey, why'd you do that? And the instant defensiveness and anger and threats of violence kind of showed me, whoa, there's something deeper here, and then I kind of went from there. So I can't say that I'm unique in my observation, maybe just a little unique in my approach.
We normally just see the worst of people, but can you tell us a little bit about how often people come up to you to thank you for the work that you're doing while you're out on patrol?
Well, it is definitely gratifying because I get way more, hey, how you doing? Oh my God, it's you. Can I get a photo? Can I get a sticker? Whatever. I get way more of that.
So can we talk about the Dr. Phil show for just a minute?
Sure.
I think Dr. Phil tried to rake you over the coals with nearly every accusation in the book.
Yeah, he was literal, and they did warn me that to a degree. Now, and they didn't warn me of that, a week out. The day of, the producer who was handling my show came in and said, okay, we're going to bring on, Dr. Phil's going to bring you on for this segment. He's got this person here who's going to bring up this psychologist here, this radio host here. So they were straightforward about that stuff. It wasn't an absolute rug pull.
In your opinion, why was Dr. Phil making so many excuses for those lazy bones that are out there?
And I brought this up momentarily. You can watch from the video. We weren't able to have too much of a back and forth, and I get why that is. That's format based. He had this whole list of people ready to go. So he would make up a point, I would rebut the point, and then he wouldn't really respond to my rebuttal. It would just be on to the next thing, which I get that to a certain extent, because that's he has a schedule to keep as far as his show goes. But I think a large part of that was he had to play devil's advocate to a certain extent. And I brought that up. I said, at some point, I'm kind of surprised at you, Dr. Phil.
Do you think Dr. Phil is secretly a lazybones?
I think he may be. Now, that being said, people will often say after that episode came out that, oh, you need to do a special edition where you go to Bel Air and just hang out at the grocery store. Take 2 weeks if you need to. I don't think he shops for his own groceries. And
if you saw that, let's say that you're out in a parking lot and you saw Dr. Phil fail to take his cart back, would you put a lazybones magnet on Dr. Phil's car?
Certainly. We don't discriminate the Cart Narcs. He's it's rich or poor, doesn't matter. Assuming you are an able-bodied person and there are cart returns at a reasonable distance from where you are, everyone deserves the same treatment.
How many times have you been arrested for cart narking?
Let me see if I can count. That would be 0 times.
Have you ever had the police call on you?
But overall, my police interaction has been very positive. In fact, I was just in the Milwaukee area, and this guy's like, "Oh, Cart Narcs," and he turned out to be, he said, off duty with detective. He's like, "I love your video." I was like, "Absolutely." And this Kevlar vest I'm wearing actually was donated from a police officer in the Baton Rouge area after a man pulled a gun on me, and he said, "Hey, I got an extra vest. You want it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And so overall, great support from the police, and the very few interactions I've had with them have been essentially harmless.
Have you ever been sued?
I have never been sued by anyone. I know this is not a cool thing to say and it sounds stupid. I kind of would like to be sued because I think it would expose these people for what idiots they are. No offense. Well, actually, yeah, offense.
Have you ever had to contact the police as a result of an encounter?
I have. Oh well, there's one video in Texas, the one that led to the gifting of this Kevlar vest, where the guy pulls a gun and displays it to me. I try to be careful about my language there. He doesn't point it at me, doesn't fire it, doesn't, as they say, pull on me. You know, he takes a gun out, racks the slide, and then I back away, obviously, because when a person with a gun has it and shows that they're have an intent of potentially using it, you want to be as far away from that person as possible. In that video, you'll notice that he drives off, and then a few minutes later, I actually see a police cruiser come by. I flag her down, and I take, there's, 20 minutes, 15, 20, because that to me is the difference between fun and games and silliness and bluster and actual potential public, violence that could not only hurt me, but other people. That's not, I'm gonna knock your head, block off, from an old man. That is, hey, I've got a gun and I could use it on you.
You encountered a gentleman in Texas who said, "I'm a killer and I'm about to put 6 in your forehead." Walk us through your reaction when you first learned that he had previously killed someone on the public transit system in Dallas.
That was the first time guns ever entered the conversation. That was pretty early on in the Cart Narcs sort of mission. And in the video, you hear Agent Cordell, he backs down. He's like, well, he threatened a gun violence. That's not a good sign. And he backs away. Not knowing that this same gentleman, it appears, because as soon as the video was put out, people were sent in video. People like, oh my God, I know that guy. He shot a guy on I believe it's DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit train, I believe the year prior, or year and a half, whenever it was, recently prior to that. And not only was it the same head, he appeared to be wearing the same shirt. Because the reason that became a news story is because someone shot YouTube video of the aftermath. Now, I have not researched this, and I suppose if we ever did like a full Cart Narcs TV show, I'd have people go in and find out, because I believe the man survived whom he shot. I don't know that for a fact, because the YouTube videos seem to show paramedics giving this man CPR, and then the PD showing up and arresting the guy, and then there's an interview with whoever's in the chief of the Dallas area transit system, who's saying we didn't charge the man because he claimed self-defense. He claimed that the man on the train was harassing and or threatening both him and other passengers. They didn't have any video of that I saw in that news report. So we don't know. Maybe he was. We don't know. But the strange and scary part is that he would then threaten me, or Agent Cordell, whoever that may be, with death, and be proud and brag about his prior shootings, again, over something as trivial as a magnet on his SUV. So that shows, number one, irresponsible gun ownership, and I would say you can maybe speak to this as a lawyer, that shows premeditation as far as like the self-defense at that point excuse goes way out the window.
Have you ever been attacked while on patrol?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have definitely been attacked. In fact, there was a pretty close call in Hawaii recently, or end of last year, where the guy, it was a full-on sprint, and he was looking to put some hands on me.
And it's amazing that people would go to this length whenever they could just simply get in their vehicle and drive away.
Right, and you see, we posted some videos where folks do that. They're just like, either they'll give me the finger or whatever, and then they're off, or even just ignore me. Like, okay, that's all you gotta do. People say vandalism, harassment, and I guess the closest analogy, and people have pointed this out in our comments, is like, well, is it vandalism if someone puts a flyer under your windshield for, a car wash service or a party in the neighborhood or the local yard sale? You might, I've said this before, maybe I'll get a ticket for, they might have a local ordinance against distribution of advertisements or something, whatever that local ordinance happens to be. And I'll take that if I happen to get it, to me, that's the squeeze that's worth the juice, I guess. But it's certainly not vandalism or harassment, because it's not again, goes back to the what are the damages sort of question.
What's next on the Cart Narcs horizon?
Well, I want to up the silliness, because that's the other thing too, is it's not just me being sweet and nice and pointing out, to how to take your carts back, that you should take your carts back. You know, I mean, I use silly language, I have silly characters, funny voices, silly little props, you know, the magnets that are shaped like lazy bones on board. So I think that's, if there's any kind of real budget or production behind this, if it's not just me out here running around.
You've got final word though. What's the message that you have for potential lazy bones that are thinking about not taking their cart back?
Well, number one, please return your cart. But number two is, once you do that, and once you, again, I've got so many examples of stop making excuses, you know you can do it. Then I would say the next level is, if you get past that, think about other areas of your life. And that's, I will say for me, this is something that has helped me. It's like, because I have to now be the example. I think that's just a mature thing to do. I can't be littering. I can't, you know, not that I ever did, but I have to be especially conscious about, if I make a problem or a mess in the world, it's my responsibility to clean it up, you know? And again, apply that not only to carts, but across all areas of your life, and you will be happier, and you will feel better about yourself at the end of the day.
If you've been guilty of being a lazy bones by leaving your shopping cart out in the parking lot, now is your time to turn it around and do the right thing. If you don't, then the next time you turn around, you might find yourself face to face with the Cart Narcs, and then we'll all laugh at you.